What's going on, everybody? LK here, back at it again with another video, and today some more Dragon Ball FighterZ for y'all. So recently, I believe it was on Friday, Goichi was talking about switching to hitbox and trying to use hitbox to the point that he got one and started playing with it. Talking about hitbox again kind of brought me back to this point on how he's even able to defend certain things in the first place. I think a lot of people misunderstand what he's doing and just think of him as some type of like untouchable robot that defends everything, but there's actually a lot of logic behind why he makes the choices he does and how he actually chooses to defend in this game. The first thing is something I have said a bunch on this channel before, but of course it fits for this video as well. The mix-up in this game overall is not that common. Like, not everybody is good at setting up mix-ups for various reasons. There are obvious reasons that everyone knows, like some characters don't have low 2Ls, or some characters don't have good cross-ups, or they don't have a command grab, but overall, like, not all characters are good at doing mix-ups designed to hit you. So when you are in a situation, say, blocking a character like our old friend, the pro tag SSJ Goku, when you're blocking him, you could just sit there and block because there's not that much threat of getting hit by anything. You might be like, what about 6M? What about Dragon Rush? What about same side Super Dash? I don't consider these things to be unique mix-ups. These are using system mechanics to open people up, and for the most part, you can defend against the system mechanics really well in this game, especially with some practice. So, especially in regards to this point, I really want you to think about whether or not a character actually has good tools for opening you up or not. People really like the low 2L thing because it gives you easy access to a 50-50, especially if you play a character like Kid Buu or something. But take a character like Kefla. So we got Kefla here, right? The official Karen of Dragon Ball FighterZ in her yoga pants or whatever. So in the past couple of videos, I've seen people talking about Kefla in the comments, and one thing I've seen, and this is an example of how I know that some of you guys, you don't have like a good complete concept of defense, says that she has good mix-up. But what does that mean? She does have a low 2L low, so she could do what a lot of characters with low 2Ls have, where if you have a high block and assist, you get high-low, right? And that is fine. But describing this as a good mix-up option and this as a good mix-up option is not totally correct. This does have its own merits, mostly because you can chain out of it. I almost said Gatling. Now, the thing about like being able to do airtight block strings into low, that is showing that there's issues with your defense, aka you probably are mashing reflect and block stun, which you shouldn't be doing. This move is basically a non-factor as far as mix-ups for hitting people go. It just is a low. It's something that you could do from far as a poke, and it is good in that regard. This is good again because you can chain out of it, but this being at 27 frames is pretty reactable, especially offline. There are people out here who are saying Jiren's command grab is quote-unquote trash, and that shit is 28 frames. So if you're going to turn around and say this is a good mix-up tool, I don't know what to tell you. So it has been relatively difficult to piece actual 50-50s, aka things where you have to just pick a choice. You can't really option select it in this game. There's not that many examples. The main things are, again, high-lows, command grabs, left-rights. Those are your basic three main things you have left. They have basically condensed everything into just that. Now, number two, he is very good at applying the game's defensive techniques properly. What do I mean by this? So, of course, there's blocking, there's mashing, there's reflect. Some of you guys use vanish as a defensive mechanic. The main thing about defense is that you have to recognize the context and apply whatever option you want at that time. That's very important, and this is something that Goichi's basically ridiculous at. So for example, I watched an online tournament recently, and I see this type of offense done by people who have only competed in online tournaments quite a bit. So we have Kefla here still, and they'll stand in your face like this, okay? So the person will like ID in or have some type of plus frames, stand in your face to like fake the Dragon Rush, and then ID again, right? And just to add to this a little bit, we will add something where they actually do run up and Dragon Rush me. So we'll do this. Now, in this context, of course, this isn't a vacuum, but there's actually a lot of things you could do about this first option here. So, for example, you could walk under, She's doing jump heavy, so she gets to keep attacking me, but we swap sides. It's really good. You could tech the Dragon Rush 2H and explode her is another option. You could pick Fuzzy Jump and meet her in the air. So there's a bunch of things you could do to stop this type of 2 selection. So if you end up practicing the situation, you just pick based off what you want to do. So in this case, we pretend she has no assist, and we will tech with 2H in this case. Missed it that time. Okay, but you can see that I'm picking something that covers multiple options that will get me out of the things I think are coming. Now, the issue and the thing that makes it hard for people is that there are a lot of these type of situations in the game in general. I picked a pretty simple example, but there are way more than this. So number 3 would be he pays very careful attention in forced interaction states of the game. So one thing that I think I mentioned this in a video last week, but I don't think I really went into it. So personally, right, we talk about things like snap and fuzzy, blah blah blah, and one of the immediate things that people say as a criticism when I say I like those things is that, oh my god, okay, you hate neutral, you hate interaction, the more player versus player interaction, the better, right? Generally, I agree. The more player versus player interaction, the better. But I prefer a more organic interaction, right? One thing about Dragon Ball is that it forces a lot of interaction on you. So what do I mean by this before we go to our actual point? So what do I mean by this? Dragon Ball has a lot of interactions where, because of something about how the system works, it basically forces both players into like a hard guessing situation right away. So it's things like after you block a super dash on the air and the ground, after blocking a vanish, or when they do a vanish in general, because generally you're doing something, so you have to either counter vanish or you have to not do anything and wait for the vanish and then punish. After any move, any special move that's unsafe but not punishable, that's a bad example. Here we go, like a -5 like this. After blocking an overhead, all these situations immediately force a guess between both players. Now, something I've implemented and something that Goichi is really good at as well is that I generally pick really safe options in these spots to see what they want to do later, so that later I can go back and punish. There are way more than what I listed here, but for instance, if you see somebody doing this a lot. So we have Kid Buu doing it. Once you super dash, you don't have super dash anymore. You have air dash options. You still have a jump option. So if you see somebody do this, then you actually have a huge advantage. Most characters can't attack from there. The presumption is they don't have an assist that can cover that space, because if they had an assist that could cover their super dash, they would just call it. So you're actually really strong when they do that. Depending on what assist you have, you can just call it and 50-50 them right away. You can set up a 50-50 that you normally would not get. So one example would be something like this. There's a lot of things you could do with those minus frames. You can't punish them specifically for jumping, but you put them in a bad situation where they have to defend your offense. It's also something you see from a lot of like my ranked matches, for example. So people who with Ki Blast vanish immediately. As I said, of course you could try to counter vanish, and that's fine, but if you specifically know, because you recognize that there could be a vanish coming, you could choose to do nothing and wait to punish. So for an example like that, consider the return if you wait, right? So if you wait, you get a full combo of 2H. That's a huge starter, mad damage. If you counter vanish, you basically just keep your turn. You do about like 5 to 10%, not a big deal. But because of this, you have this immediate interaction of, are you going to do it? Are you not going to do it? If you sit there and wait, then they could just not vanish and fall and maybe take their turn and put you in another guessing situation of, do I have to run away? Do I try to take my turn? There's a lot of these situations in the game. So number 4 is that he could defend against the system mechanics. This kind of brings us back to number 1. Mix-up is relatively uncommon in this game. So being able to defend against the system mechanics in the game is a big deal. Dragon Rush has a very high return compared to throws in other fighting games. I'm not even doing the best combo for sure. And this is going to do, let's say, 60%, almost 60%. Optimized with assists and stuff like that, this could do a lot more. You also have to consider how you can combo off everything. So if you hit them with like a super dash or a cross up or 6M assist, you always get a combo. So being able to defend against the system mechanics makes it so your opponent needs 50-50s, or at least something tricky that you're not familiar with, in order to hit you. So in this example here, I've shown this in a couple of other videos, but I have Kevlar recorded to a few options around Dragon Rush. Coincidentally, Dragon Rush, Super Dash, and 6M are all kind of used in this conditioning type of game. But if you train your reactions, you can defend against this pretty well. So here I have her doing 5L. Delay L here is to stop me from mashing. I have it on repeat also, so that she could just keep going. And we will see, are we ascended or are we not? Disclaimer, I haven't done this for a while. I used to practice every day before World Tour Finals, but you know, with not being able to defend Dragon Rush so well online, I have been slacking a little bit. You can see, like, my overall success rate is pretty good, especially on blocking like the 6Ms, for example. Only Raw Dragon Rush has been kind of catching me here. I don't get hit by same size Super Dash, which is a big deal as well. I'm taking Jab Dragon Rush. We'll do it. We'll run it a couple more times. So you could take my example and then bring it to the extreme, because it is super hard to Dragon Rush Goichi. There is a way, but just like popping it as a hey, I want to throw you is not going to be as effective. So we have all these things and we put them together and we have a really solid base for defense. Putting all these things together, the last thing he's really good at doing is taking all this data he gets from you from picking generally low risk choices to get out, between like just sitting through your offense, using the proper like dash OS or fuzzy jumping out or things like that, and then later on he will select hard against you, aiming for return with the confidence that you will pick this thing because you picked it before. So in this example, it's against me, your boy. I have went for a lot of attempts on hitting him with Yamcha's dive kick. Yamcha's dive kick is kind of tricky. You can make it same side. I was forcing it on him a lot. I kept doing it and it kept not working, to the point that once I got plus frames on him again, he was pretty confident that I was going to do another dive kick, and then my life bar is deleted. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. So again, it's like a really solid base for the defense, like being able to defend against the things in the game in general, unless it's an actual 50-50 in which you smoke him. And then taking the data that he has seen from you before in specific spots, and then taking the risk, the high return risk, but it's based off prior data instead of just guessing blindly. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.